Hey everyone, and welcome back. In today's video, we're taking a look at how to run backing tracks with a click and how to route everything on stage so that each musician gets the perfect in-ear mix. Now, if you're new here, this is actually part 2 of a video series. In part 1, we broke down the click track routing on its own. So definitely check that out first if you're not confident with it, and you'll find the link for that right here. Okay, so quick recap. In my last video, I showed how to route a simple, consistent click track on stage. Now, whether that's through a personal mixer or returned to you via the front of house desk, but the whole idea here is that everyone can hear it in sync and blend that click into their own in-ear mixes. Now, if your band is happy running a steady click, everything from part 1 still applies. You just start the click on whatever device you're using, count it in, and off you go. Easy. Unfortunately though, that's not always going to cut it. For example, what if a song changes tempo halfway through? A basic click actually can't handle that. It needs to jump to that new tempo instantly at the exact moment in the song, and there's no reliable way to trigger that manually while you're performing. So the solution takes a bit more behind the scenes work. Rather than just hitting start and stop on a device, we're going to need to program the click as its own audio track. And of course, once we do that, we're going to lose the freedom to start and stop the song whenever we want. The track is now going to have a fixed starting point, and we have to stay perfectly locked in to hit those tempo changes exactly when they happen. Now, you can program the click tracks in pretty much any DAW or digital audio workstation. We've talked a little bit about DAWs in other videos, but basically a DAW is the software that you use to record and mix the click track. Now, I've used a few DAWs myself over the years, from Pro Tools in the beginning, then I moved across to Reaper, and these days I'm actually working in Ableton Live, but it really doesn't matter which one you use for what we're going to be doing today. Now, in the interest of everyone's sanity, I'm not going to dive too deeply into the step-by-step process here, but the main idea is that instead of triggering a device to play a simple click like we saw in part 1 by using an iPhone or an iPad or something like that, this time, we're actually building a customized click as an audio track. And that's going to let us map out every single tempo change exactly where it needs to happen in the song. And then once that's done, we'll export that audio track as a file and then decide what device we're going to use on stage for starting and stopping it. So to give an example of what that looks like, let's jump into Ableton Live now, and we'll take a look at one of the click tracks that I've already built for a song that I performed live with my band Renegade. Okay, so I'm in Ableton, and this is my master session with all of my backing tracks, so there's quite a bit going on here. You can see that there's tracks from here to eternity, but all we're really focused on for this section here is the clicks. And I'm going to look at this song here, Play That Funky Music. When I zoom in, you can see that that click track is just filled literally with a whole bunch of clicks or markers, and when I select play, you can hear that clicking along. Now, if there were no tempo changes, we could just put on a metronome and just press play, and we could start the song whenever we wanted because the tempo is just always going to be there. It's always going to be the same tempo. But in this particular track, if I press A, you can see down on the master here that the tempo starts at 105, but partway through the song, it actually jumps up. It goes from 112, then it slows down to 106, and then it jumps up to 112, and then to 113. And so the tempo is moving all over the place, but importantly, it's changing at very specific points, and we need to make sure that we program those points, and therefore we need to make sure that we start the song at the exact right moment to ensure that we change at the exact right moment. Now, you can probably hear it. It's going to be a little bit subtle, but if you keep an eye at the tempo button over here, as we get close to where this change is, so we're currently at 105 at the moment, as we get to the 112, bang, instantly it changes to 112 beats a minute. So we need to program these changes in, and this would be done in whatever DAW you're using, whichever way that you would do it. But you basically create a whole track with all of the tempo changes, and you'd export that either as a WAV file or as an MP3. Now, since we've got to be super precise with where the song starts, it's a good idea to actually build in a count in. So that's a couple of clicks, usually 4 clicks, before the click track itself is to start. And sometimes you can even make this easier by building in a short cue, C-U-E. So this is maybe somebody physically counting in 1, 2, 3, 4. And that way everyone knows exactly when to come in and start the song, and you're all locked in right from the very first beat. Okay, so I'm back in Ableton. I've got my track queued up. I'm just going to hide the automation for a second, and we'll zoom into the very beginning of the track. And here you can see that I have added a few little beats or a few little markers just to preempt the beginning of the song. And so this is what that sounds like. Right, so it's like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the band is in. I can make this more obvious by incorporating a cue track. And so to do that, what I've actually done here is I've recorded a second channel, and this is just my own voice, which will name the song, and it will give me a 1, 2, 3, 4. So me physically saying 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's really obvious where this song needs to start. Remember, in order to get that tempo change right on the mark, somewhere towards the middle of the song, we need to start this song at exactly the right place and stay in time with it all the way through. So the more obvious we can be about the beginning of this song, the better. So with that cue track added, this is what we get.
Play that funky music. 1, 2, 3, guitar.
All right, so you can see I've named the song, I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 count in, and I even say guitar there in place of the count of 4, and that's just telling the musicians that, hey, guitars are actually starting this song and they're coming in now. So the cue track can be whatever you want, but it should be information that obviously is going to be pertinent to make sure everybody's on the right page, ready to start the song. Now what I would do is I would bounce this track or save this track combined. So even though I have two channels of audio here, I would bounce this down as a single WAV file or a single MP3. So you're going to end up with one, either mono or stereo, it really doesn't matter, but one mono or stereo track that's got the clicks, and if you need it, the cues as well. Right, so we've created a simple audio file, and that's consisting of the clicks we need for the song, with all of the changes programmed in, and a prompt or perhaps a count in at the beginning so that everyone knows to start the song at the right time. So now the big question is, what do we actually use to play back our click track audio file when we're live on stage? Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. Anything that can play an audio file. So that could be your phone, it could be an iPad, or a laptop. And as you've probably seen, plenty of musicians actually run everything right out of the DAW on their laptop. And the reason is because that can actually handle additional things like backing tracks and also a whole range of other live stage elements. This is where we finally get to talk about playing backing tracks in conjunction with a click track. Now in the first video, we covered how to send just click tracks around to the band. And we also discussed how the sound engineer can mute those clicks from the front of house so that the audience doesn't have to hear them. But now we're dealing with a different situation. We need to trigger multiple channels of audio, clicks and backing tracks. And this time, some of those channels do need to go out to the audience, while others stay strictly in the in-ears. Now, before I show you how that's done, a quick note firstly about mono versus stereo signals, because you'll need to understand the difference. And most of the listening devices around your home are going to feature stereo output, so a headphone jack would be an example of this. Now, a stereo signal is actually a combination of two single or mono channels of audio. You'll have a left channel and you'll have a right channel. And it's the differences between these two mono channels which can create effects like panning, where we perceive sounds to be on the left or to the right of us when we listen to a stereo signal. Now, because most playback devices are stereo by default, we can actually use this to our advantage when we build our backing tracks. If we can create two mono tracks, one for the click and one for the backing track, we can pan them hard left and hard right. And that way, when the audio gets played out of our device, we can split those two channels using a Y cable and send the right channel, that's the click, to our in-ears, and the left channel, that's the backing track, onto the front of house system so it can be routed to the in-ear mixers of the other musicians and also out to the audience. So now let's jump back into Ableton and we'll create a really simple stereo track with clicks on one side and a backing track on the other. All right, so we're back in Ableton. I've started a brand new session with two tracks. Now the first track in blue, that's my click track, and I've embedded some vocal cues in the beginning, so when I play that track... 1, 2... All right, so you hear the click and the counting.
3, 4.
And then the second channel is basically just a backing track of the piano part. So two separate channels, and what we need to do is we need to split them so that we can isolate each channel on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the click and the cues. I'm going to pan that hard to the right-hand side. So when I start this now,
1, 2, 1, 2.
You'll hear that it's over on the right-hand side. And similarly for the piano backing track, I'm going to pull that hard left. So if we play that now, you can hear that we've got the two parts. The click and cues are in the right-hand side. We have the backing track itself, the piano part, just in the left side, hand, hard, right and left. And this is actually going to be perfect because now when we split these channels out, we can send the right-hand track, that's just the clicks and the cues, that's going to go into our in-ear mixer so we can hear the start of the song and start in time. And the left side, that's the backing track, that's going to go out to the front of house engineer. He or she will then be able to route that back to us so that all the musicians can hear the backing track and he can send that out to the audience as well. Okay, so now we've got these two tracks ready. We have a click track and we have a backing track. But if you don't want to rely on the sound engineer to send the backing track back to your in-ear mix, you can actually set up your channel so that the backing track is still on the left and the click plus a duplicate of the backing track is on the right. Why would you do that? Well, this way, your feed, the right side, isn't just a click anymore. It's actually going to be a preset blend of the click plus the backing track combined into one mono channel ready to go. Okay, so to show you how that's set up, we have our click and our backing track, and what we need to do is to duplicate our backing track. So we effectively have two copies of the backing track now. Now, this backing track goes to the front of house, that's in the left channel. What we want to do for this new track, however, and I'll just change color so that it's obvious, is we want to send this one to the same side as our click, and this is going just to us. So I need to pull this one completely to the right. All right, so now if we listen to just what's happening on the right-hand side, we get this.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So you can hear that the backing track and the clicks and the cues are all combined as one channel, hard panned to the right-hand side. And again, this is the feed that we get, so now we're going to be able to hear all of that stuff, including the backing track, whether we can get a feed of that backing track back to us from the sound engineer or not. Okay, so to recap, we've got a couple of options. We can build a stereo track with clicks on the right side and the backing track on the left, or we can duplicate the mono backing track to both sides with the click only on the right. This way we're going to hear the click and the track together through our personal mixer. But remember, we won't be able to adjust the click level relative to the backing track. Now, unfortunately, both of these splitting methods so far are going to come with some pretty big limitations. First off, we're limited to just two channels of audio. So if you want to run multi-track playback where individual instruments in your backing tracks need to have their own separate outputs, the stereo splitting method is just not going to cut it. Now, secondly, if one of those channels is being used for a click track, that's going to leave just one mono channel remaining for your backing track. And since that channel has to be mono, you're going to lose all stereo width and any panning that you planned in that track. So everything needs to be summed up right down the middle with no left to right movement for your backing track. So at this point, it's going to become pretty clear that if we want to run stereo backing tracks, plus a click, plus maybe even a few other channels of audio at the same time, we're going to need a device that can handle more than just two channels or one stereo channel of output. So what options are there in the market right now for doing that? Sampling pads are a really popular way to run multiple channels of audio together instantly live on stage. And one of the most common options for drummers is the Roland SPD-SX. Now, with samplers like this, you can create and upload audio tracks, assign each track to a pad, and trigger them live just by hitting the pad with your stick. It's actually pretty cool. And here's the really cool part. On units like the SPD-SX, the pads can actually be linked and triggered together with one hit. So for example, you could upload a stereo, not mono, but a stereo backing track as one file and a separate click track as another file. You could assign each track to its own dedicated pad, link those pads, and now hitting either pad will start both tracks simultaneously. Now, even better, the SPD-SX can be configured to send the audio from each pad to different outputs, which makes it a really powerful solution for running click tracks, backing tracks, and other audio channels all at once live on stage. Now, the SPD-SX has a stereo output, so it has a main left and a main right output, so stereo tracks are no problem, and it's going to make it great for backing tracks, but it also has a separate stereo headphone output, plus a sub-left and a sub-right output. This gives us a lot of flexibility for routing different sounds straight from the source exactly to where we need them on stage. So, for example, we could take the audio from a pad, so let's say our backing track, and send that out through the main left and right outputs. Now, as we've seen before, this would run through a DI box and onto the front of house mixing desk. From there, the sound engineer will then balance the backing track with the rest of the band and send it out to the audience. And the engineer could also send the backing track back to each musician's in-ear mix as well, so that everyone can hear it clearly on stage. Keep in mind though that the pad that's storing the click track is linked to your backing track pad, so it's going to start at the same time as the backing track. However, if you assign the click track to play only through the headphone output, you can send the click to your own personal mixer without having to run it to the front of house desk first. So that's great if you just need the click for yourself. If you need the click to go to all the musicians on stage, you could send it out through the sub outputs in the same way that you're sending out the backing track. So again, it would run through the DI box and onto the front of house desk. And this gives the sound engineer a separate channel for the click, just like the backing track, but of course, it can be muted in the front of house mix, so only the band hears it. So, while it's super convenient perhaps to import files onto a sampler like the SPD-SX and trigger it live with a stick hit, there's actually an even more flexible and scalable approach for those who want to take it up even a notch further. We can use the same DAW we created our tracks in to run those tracks live. In other words, we run the clicks and the backing tracks straight from the sessions that we've built and saved on our laptop. And this is actually a really common method that a lot of musicians use today to manage their clicks and their backing tracks when they play live. And as we'll see in a moment, using a computer this way lets you control a lot more than just the clicks and the backing tracks. Now, at first glance, you might think that this isn't going to be possible. After all, laptops and computers like iPhones usually only have a standard stereo output, usually a headphone jack. And so this is where the idea of an audio interface comes in. An audio interface is a device that connects to your computer using USB and basically takes over all of your computer's audio duties. So it handles the routing, but most importantly, it gives you additional outputs, which is exactly what we need. And the good news is you don't have to spend a fortune on an audio interface. Even the budget-friendly interfaces will give you more than 2 outputs, which is perfect for our scenario. Now, sure, interfaces can get crazy expensive if you go high-end, but for most live setups, all we really need is enough outputs to make everything work. Some common interfaces for playback of audio from a computer. Well, a good budget way, in my opinion, would be something like the Focusrite Scarlett 4i4 Gen 4. That will give us enough outputs for what we need. And as of the making of this video at this time, they're around $400 Australian. A very popular choice is the Motu M4. That's a little bit more expensive. You'll pay $579 Australian as of today. This unit might possibly be getting phased out. I'm actually not too sure, but it has been a staple for a lot of sort of small to medium bands needing an interface live on stage. Very solid unit, very reliable. The best option right now, the one that you're going to see a lot of the big touring bands using, is the Play Audio 1U. Gives you a bunch of outputs, but it is a lot more expensive. It's going to be $2,199 or $2,200 Australian. That probably roughly equates to about $1,300 USD at this point. So a lot more expensive. And to be honest, I don't know that it's going to offer a whole lot more for people who are just starting out with this. So my opinion would be save your money. The Scarlett 4i4 might be a really good way to get into this. So that's as far as we'll take things for this video. To summarize, we can use a number of devices and a range of different methods to route our backing tracks and our click tracks around the stage. But unlike the scenario in video 1, where we only had the click to contend with, adding your backing tracks means we may require more than just a stereo output. And we're also going to need to be mindful of which sounds need to be sent through to the audience and which ones should not. I hope you found the video useful. Be sure to put your questions and your feedback in the comments section below, and a huge thanks once again for watching. Now, if you'd like to see my setup for running tracks with my bands, make sure to check out part 3 of this series. I'm going to be walking through all of that stuff step by step. And we're also going to take a peek at how other drummers around the world are running their tracks in their local and international scene. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.